favor and die.
Impetuous fools, the pitiless display.
Now come to the age of the stars.
Terraria Stars Above mod. It's a good mod that adds a lot of new content like very cool weapons, amazing bosses, and it even adds subworlds. It also even has voice lines. This is possibly the most unique mod I've ever played. I don't want to waste your time, so let's begin. So I spawned in. I opened my starter treasure bag, but I also spawned in with a spatial disc in my inventory. By the way, this is my second playthrough of this mod. I got up to the twins on my first playthrough, but the footage got corrupted, so I'm kind of tired right now and I don't want to be playing this again. I used the spatial disc and I continued and this animation played. Basically, you get to choose a Starfarer to aid you on your playthrough, and you can do a ton of cool stuff. Now on my first playthrough, I chose the blue one called Asphodine, but this time I'll choose the purple one. I used the spatial disc again, and I got dialogue from the Starfarer. She talks a lot, so I'll just shorten it down. Her name is Aridony. I think that's how I pronounce it. Basically, choosing between the two Starfarers will majorly impact how the game is going to go. The weapons in this mod can be either Umbral, Astral, or Spatial. We'll have access to Umbral weapons since we chose Aridony, but Astral weapons are only able to be accessed if you chose Asphodine. Spatial weapons can be used by both playstyles. In the spatial disc item, I can access the Stellar Array, which will give me powerful buffs as I defeat more and more bosses. Starfarers can also turn latent power into essences, and we can turn those essences into weapons. We can only get essences whenever we defeat bosses. That's pretty much all. I made a magic storage system and went to the right, which had a desert. Then I went to the left, which had a crimson biome.
What do you mean bro's built like a 1x1 Lego piece?
If I can't go right and I can't go left, I'll go down. Before I went down, I made a few insta houses, which automatically place houses for me. By the way, just a small announcement. A lot of you have been telling me that I use too much quality of life mods. Since I want to increase the enjoyment for everyone watching, I'll try to remove a lot of the quality of life mods I use on the next playthrough. The next one, not this one. Anyways, I kept going down and I found a minecart track, a mushroom biome, and I went back and upgraded a lot of my tools. The merchant came back, so I grabbed a piggy bank. I waited for the demolitionist so I could grab some dynamite and use it to make an Excavator. Yeah, I know, too much quality of life. I won't do much of this next playthrough, trust me. I went down to the elevator and I grabbed some life crystals on the way. I also mined up some crimtane so I could make the blood butcherer. Since I had a good amount of health and a suspicious looking eye, I figured that I could take down the Eye of Cthulhu. After waiting for night, I summoned the boss. But then I realized I forgot to place torches, so I had to do that while fighting the Eye. But I can skip over this cause, you know, it's your average expert mode Eye of Cthulhu experience. There aren't any changes here. Don't mind the fact that I got insanely close to dying, but we beat it. On the bottom of my screen, I received 2 notifications on the spatial disc beginning to resonate, and I got 1 notification about the Stellar Array getting a new ability. The spatial disc notification was for an item called the Shattered Disc. It summons a boss that we'll get to soon. The second notification was for an essence called the Essence of the Gardener. It's used for crafting a summon weapon called the Konpaku Katana. A lot of these weapons are going to be hard to pronounce, so yeah. You get an essence from every single boss, so keep that in mind. The new ability in the Stellar Array is called the Spectral Nail, which gives me 10% bonus true damage every 5 strikes, and it has a 6-second cooldown. Almost every boss gives an ability in the Stellar Array when defeated. I can also only use a few Stellar Array abilities at a time, and how much I can use depends on how powerful the abilities are. I crafted the Konpaku Katana, and not only does it allow you to shoot bullets, but it also summons this thing. I quickly made some more insta houses, went to the Crimson, and crafted the Slime Crown. However, I made the mistake of accidentally summoning the boss the instant I crafted the item. Yeah, it was a close fight, but sadly I ended up dying. I went back to craft another slime crown and I died, but I was still able to craft it before dying. I went back and summoned the King Slime. It was easy, there isn't anything to note here. I'll make sure to add boss montages to modded fights, but the vanilla ones we've already seen a lot, so I don't think I need to show much of them. I'm gonna start breaking down all of the essences and stellar array abilities I get from each boss. The essence I got from the King Slime was the Essence of Style. The Essence of Style is used to craft the Rad Gun, a magic weapon. I didn't craft this since it was not melee. The stellar array ability I got was the Stay the Course, which gave me critical strike chance and damage reduction per 10 seconds in combat, up to 15%. But I gained access to a new button in the spatial disc menu called the Astrolabe. It added a new menu where you could teleport to a bunch of different subworlds, but the only one I can teleport to right now is the Observatory Hyperborea. So I teleported there. There was this crystal thing there. Also, new dialogue happens. And we get to meet Asphodine, the other starfarer that we didn't choose in the beginning of the game. They tell us a bunch of lore, so I'll just get to it right now. Basically, the galaxy is freezing, I think. The further you go from the center of the galaxy, the more it's freezing. But apparently our homeworld is habitable because of the sun. Right now, they tell us that we need to craft a stellaglyph to explore the rest of the galaxy. And we can upgrade the stellaglyph for access to more locations. Before crafting the stellaglyph though, I went to Crimson and broke some Crimson Hearts just so I can fight the Goblin Army soon. After making a few insta houses, I really didn't know what to do. Remember the shattered disc I got, which summons a boss? I decided to use it to try and fight the boss right now. This is the Vagrant of Space and Time. Every boss in the mod will actually have this bar that's towards the bottom of your character, which actually tells you what attacks they're going to use, which is a really cool feature. The Vagrant of Space and Time will try to snipe you by shooting projectiles like a bow, and he can also summon barriers throughout the fight. Your position will be changed whenever you walk through one of the edges of the barrier. He also has a ton of health, so it took quite a bit of time. The essences I got from the Vagrant of Space and Time was the Essence of the Spinning and the Essence of the Watch. The Essence of the Spinning is used to craft the Trick Spin 2-step, a summon weapon, and the Essence of the Watch is used to craft the Chrono Clock, another summoning weapon. I shouldn't be bothering to explain these if I'm never going to use them because they aren't melee. But I didn't get any stellar array abilities from defeating the boss, so that's kind of unfortunate. But also, from beating the boss, I gained access to the Stellar Nova menu, and by extension, now I have access to using Stellar Novas. Stellar Novas are special attacks you can use. There is a bar at the top of your screen and you can increase it by being in combat. Once it's full, you can use a Stellar Nova. You can also use certain prisms to give different buffs to a Stellar Nova. For example, the Crystalline Prism, which reduces damage by 20% and reduces crit chance by 7%, but at the same time giving a 30% boost to crit damage. And it needs 7 prismatic cores to craft. In this case, our first Stellar Nova was the Prototokia Aster. I knew these were going to be hard to pronounce. Which summons a sword that you can aim to hit the enemy, which will deal damage over time to the enemy. Also, apparently the Vagrant of Space and Time is another starfarer that was just testing us, and he's called Perseus. But I went back to Observatory Hyperborea, and using the crafting station there, I crafted the first tier of the stellaglyph. I placed it down, and the only location I can currently go to was a place called Mining Station Arius. There will be more locations I can go to once I upgrade it to tier 2. Although the mining station didn't have much to offer, some of the enemies dropped prismatic cores which I'll be able to use to craft better items. I went back to underground to max out my health, and I waited for the goblin army to spawn. After it spawned, I beat it. Then I crafted the Bloody Spine and fought the Brain of Cthulhu. It's just your average Brain of Cthulhu fight, so of course I won.
Anita Max Swing.
I got a bunch of essences from the brain, but the most important one is called the Essence of Ashen, which is the most important one since it allowed me to craft a melee weapon called the Ashen Ambition, which I'll get to later. The Stellar Array ability I got was the Arms Thrift, which gave me a 15% damage bonus for 5 seconds every time I swap weapons, and it has a 10-second cooldown. However, I also got a new Stellar Nova called the Unlimited Blade Works, which creates a field where blades will rain down on enemies while also giving you buffs. I crafted the Ashen Ambition weapon I mentioned. It throws out a chain knife, and right-clicking will make you disappear and reappear where your cursor is, dealing some significant damage. But I saw that the next boss was called Thespian, the Act of Alchemy. This new town NPC called Asterope arrived, and talking to her gave me a strange potion called the Malsane Draught, used to summon the boss. So I summoned it, and I got destroyed. I tried and failed again. So I just went to Underworld and mined up some Hellstone to upgrade my gear. So I crafted some molten armor. Then I farmed Brain of Cthulhu's for some money. Just look at that Stellar Nova, I swear these look so cool. Then I came back for round 2. Thespian is the first boss in the mod that spawns the barrier for the entire fight. And I'm saying it's the first cause all of the mod bosses will do this later on. Thespian likes to spawn a lot of explosions, and also projectiles that fall down or go back up. Overall a simple fight, but a fun one. Now for the aftermath. The essences I got were the essence of the Dancing Seas, essence of the Dragon, and essence of the Hydro, which were kind of useless since none of them made any melee weapons. I didn't get any Stellar Array abilities, and I didn't get any Stellar Novas. I went back to mining station areas to get more prismatic cores, and I went back to Observatory to craft the second tier of the Stellaglyph. Also, after placing the second tier Stellaglyph, I got an essence called the Essence of Nature, used for a magic weapon called the Irminsul's Dream. But this one actually looked interesting, so I crafted it. It allowed me to draw boxes which damaged enemies and debuffed them, which is actually insanely cool. I love this weapon. I ended up exploring some of the new locations I have access to, like for example, the subworld, where I met this cat girl. The subworld that apparently had rare accessory drops, and more. But anyways, I looked for the jungle and went to try and find a beehive to kill the queen bee. After a long time, I found one, and after making a quick arena, I summoned and killed the queen bee. I got one essence called the Essence of Fingers, used to craft the Inugami Ripsaw, a melee weapon which I'll craft later. The new Stellar Array ability I got was the Mystic Incision, which gave me 20% extra armor penetration, and an extra 50% whenever I'm in close proximity to enemies. But to craft the Inugami Ripsaw, you need the Flower of Fire, which is Post-Skeletron. I made an arena where the dungeon is and summoned up Skeletron. Is that me? Anyways, I killed Skeletron. In terms of the essences, I got a lot of essences. There was one noteworthy essence called the Essence of Misery, used to craft the Misery's Company. But the new Stellar Array ability I obtained is called Catharsis, which dealt 20% of my base damage to enemies whenever I got hit. I went inside the dungeon to grab a shadow key, since I'm gonna need to open shadow chests in the underworld for the Flower of Fire. It took me a long time, but eventually I got one. Before going to Underworld though, I decided to look for the Goblin Army just for some reforges and the Tinkerer's Workshop. After finding the Tinkerer, I went to open up some shadow chests and I found the Flower of Fire, so I could craft the Inugami Ripsaw. It's just a normal chainsaw, but you can go Berserker mode when right clicking, which will make you lose 4 health per second but give you 100% more damage. However, Perseus came back and gave us the Twin Crux Pendant, used for summoning a new boss. So I used the item to summon. You know what? You can just look at the subtitles. I'm not even gonna bother pronouncing this. They first summoned a barrier that I think was meant to last for the entire fight, but then out of nowhere, it just went away. They still did a lot of cool things like more explosions, clashing, and more, but the fact that the barrier got bugged made this fight a cakewalk. Blame the game, not me. I only got one essence from the boss, called the Essence of the Hollow Heart, used for a ranged weapon that I didn't care about. I didn't get any Stellar Ray ability, and no new Stellar Novas. Remember the Essence of Misery that I got from beating Skeletron? Well, I used it along with 3 diamonds to craft the Misery's Company. The Misery's Company has 3 modes, and you can switch between modes by right-clicking. Blade mode makes it behave like a broadsword, Scythe mode makes it behave like a throwable scythe, and Gun mode makes you be able to fire a spread of 5 bullets. Overall, a really cool weapon. I made an insta-arena in the underworld, and after some voodoo doll farming, I was able to summon the Wall of Fistron. Every playthrough, he comes back, and this one is no exception either. But somehow, after a long fight, I didn't get much useful essences from the Wall of Fistron, but I got a very good Stellar Ray ability, which turns 15% of my damage taken into restored HP. So I went to the Crimson, broke some demon altars, and died, but that doesn't matter. After breaking enough altars, I went spelunking for hard mode ores. This is possibly my least favorite part of the game. Mining hard mode ores is just so tedious. Tell me if you agree. After mining for a long time, I was able to get a full set of adamantite armor. I also upgraded my accessories. I got the Terra Spark boots, I crafted fairy wings, I even farmed mimics and crimson mimics to craft the Berserker's glove, since it was of course going to be useful for melee. Now the last thing I needed was a good weapon, so I summoned the Goblin Army. There weren't any good modded weapons I could think of, so I just aimed to get the Shadowflame knife. And eventually I managed to get it. After reforging my items, I summoned the Queen Slime. I just summoned it for fun, and it was on my boss checklist. I didn't really need anything much from it, and with my Shadowflame knife, it was pretty easy. I didn't get a singular essence that was able to be used for a melee weapon. Also, no new Stellar Ray abilities and no new Stellar Novas. As I thought, this boss is useless. So anyways, I summoned the twins next. They were also easy. I gained a few new useful items from the twins. In terms of essences, the 3 useful essences I got were the Essence of Death's Apprentice, Essence of the Bionis, and Essence of the Gunlance. All 3 of them are used to craft melee weapons, which I'll explain later. In terms of Stellar Ray abilities, I gained the Infernal End, which gave me 50% more attack whenever I'm below 100 HP, along with every attack inflicting a fire debuff. But I also got a new Stellar Nova called the Kiwami Ryukin. It's basically a counter attack. Whenever you use it, there is a window where if an enemy hits you, you deal back a massive amount of damage to them. But then Perseus came back again, and this time he gave me an item called the Unsullied Canvas, used to summon the next modded boss. But I used the Essence of Death's Apprentice to craft the Memento Muse. When you hold this weapon, the Rhythm Gauge will appear. If you swing the weapon with the beat of the gauge, you'll deal more damage and fire projectiles. The combo is limited to 12 times, and you'll be able to use Rhythm Burst once you've finished your combo, which will allow you to ignore all timing, dealing significant damage. Yeah, this was kind of hard for me to explain, but there will be more weapons that are like this later on. Then I also used the Essence of the Gunlance to craft the Hull Rot. Right-clicking will swap between Blasting and Striking Form. Striking Form will allow you to slash in a huge area, and Blasting Form will allow you to deal damage with slow and powerful ranged attacks. So then, I fought Skeletron Prime. It was, of course, easy. I didn't get any major essences from the fight, and I didn't get any Stellar Ray abilities nor any Stellar Novas. I ended up using the Essence of the Bionis to make the Xenoblade, and it has a whole essay in its description. I don't want to have to explain it all, so to summarize it quickly, you can switch between 5 different modes that each give different buffs. Also, you can charge attacks for the cost of mana, but I finally used the Unsullied Canvas to summon Penthesilea, the Witch of Ink. This fight actually looked extremely cool, but at the same time, it was a bit confusing for my first attempt, so I died. I wasn't even getting close. So I instead crafted a mechanical worm and summoned up the Destroyer. Now I have a weapon that pierces and does a lot of damage, and I'm fighting the Destroyer. You know what that means? This boss kind of just disappears. I didn't get any interesting essences from this fight except for one called the Essence of the Dragon Slayer, used to craft the Dragon Lance. But I did also get a Stellar Ray ability called the Astral Mantle. The Astral Mantle ability adds 1/10 of my current mana into my defense. So if I have 200 mana, I get 20 extra defense, which is actually a really good ability. Now my next goal was to upgrade the Stellaglyph to tier 3, so I can explore the rest of the subworlds in this mod. Before doing so, I crafted the Draken Lance. It's just a normal melee lance, except you can right click to perform a high jump and give yourself a damage buff for 5 seconds. I went to a subworld called Corvus to farm for Banded Tenebrium, a material needed to craft the 3rd tier of the Stellaglyph. Then I went to mining station areas to farm prismatic core since I also need that. And after getting a lot of the materials, I managed to craft it. Now I have access to many more subworlds. The first one I went to was called Faint Archives. It had a chest with prismatic cores and it looked pretty cool. There was this building inside the subworld as well, but I didn't know how to go inside it. You can't break blocks in subworlds. The next one I explored was called the Dreaming City. This one looked extremely cool. Like, I'm not even kidding. This is my favorite subworld in terms of looks. But anyways, I was finished with exploring subworlds for now. I crafted a pickaxe axe, mined some chlorophyte, accidentally summoned a random queen bee because that always happens, killed the queen bee, and made some chlorophyte armor. Now I felt like I was ready for the next modded boss. I used the unsullied canvas again to summon Penthesilea, the Witch of Ink. My damage output was insanely low, and this boss fight was at first insanely complicated, so after almost getting it to half health, I died. I tried again, and I managed to get it pretty low, but after an almost 7-minute fight, I died. So yeah, it turns out I wasn't ready, so I just decided to fight Plantera instead. I found a Plantera bulb in my Queen Bee arena, so I just summoned it. And well, it wasn't that hard. I didn't get any melee essences from Plantera, but I got a new stellar array ability called the Afterburner. If I use this ability, whenever my mana drops below 40, I gain 150 mana and all of my attacks will crit for 4 seconds. I'm not a mage though, so it wasn't too good for me. I used the Temple Teleportation Potion and summoned Golem. This fight took an agonizingly long amount of time. My damage output at this point was genuinely horrible, so it was clear I needed some better weapons. Time to explain essences. I managed to get 2 interesting essences, the Essence of Blood and the Essence of Silence. The Essence of Blood is used to craft a melee weapon called Mercy, and the Essence of Silence is used to craft a weapon called the Gloves of Black Silence. This weapon isn't actually melee, and instead, it's celestial. There are many different celestial weapons in this mod, and they're able to be used by any class, as they get damage bonuses from any class buffs. I got a new stellar array ability called the Weakness Exploit. It reduces my critical strike damage by 20%, but 10% of my critical strike damage is converted into true damage. I have no idea what true damage is, but I think it might be damage that ignores enemy defense. I think it's just my guess. But Perseus came back again, and he gives me a new boss summoning item called the Ancient Crown. It's used to summon a boss called Nailhun, the Burnished King, which we'll fight later. I crafted the Mercy. It's a weapon that swings in a short range, but if you right click, you dash to the nearest enemy to your cursor, dealing 3 times your base damage. I wanted to check what the Gloves of the Black Silence does, so I checked it out in Recipe Browser, and what the? So I crafted it. Basically, when you right click, you can choose 1 weapon to use between 3 random weapons. There are 9 weapons in total, and each of them do different things. So it makes sense why the weapon's description is an essay. Switching weapons gives you a buff for a short duration, ranging from things like more damage to more movement speed. So that encourages you to always switch weapons. I'm not going to explain any of the weapons cause what, you really expect me to explain 9 weapons? So with this new setup, I tried fighting Penthesilea again. I was doing way better, but I still died. But the next try, things finally looked good. Penthesilea summons a barrier just like most of the other bosses. She likes summoning a lot of these purple orbs. She also throws brushes at you. One of the cooler things about this boss is that every once in a while, she paints you a color of either red, blue, or yellow. One of her attacks, which is called Splattered Sundering, makes you have to go to the color you're currently painted, or else you'll take damage. The Gloves of the Black Silence absolutely carried me through this fight. Essence explaining time. I'm so tired of this. I didn't get any notable essences except for one called the Essence of Ink, used to craft Pentheselea's Muse, a melee weapon I'll craft soon. I actually got not one, but 2 stellar array abilities. The first one is called the Inevitable End, which causes enemies to explode when killed, which deals damage to other enemies. Also, you deal 500% of your weapon's base damage to nearby enemies when you die. The second stellar array ability I got is called the Lavender Refrain, which treats mana as bonus health. Mana regeneration is also significantly slowed down, and it reduces mana restoration to item potency by 50%. I also ended up getting a new stellar nova called the Garden of Avalon. Rather than damaging the enemy, you get health and mana regeneration, so it's pretty useful. The 2 Starfarers gave me an item called the Starfarer's Memoria, which actually summons the 2 Starfarers, so I can fight them just for fun. I tried fighting them and... the worst part is the fact that I dealt no damage. But for some reason, they never despawned even after I died. So after dying a lot, I beat both of them. The next thing I wanted to do was beat Duke Fishron, so I made an arena in the ocean. But before fighting Fishron, I made Pentheselea's Muse. Basically, every time you attack an enemy, they'll be colored in either red, orange, yellow, green, or purple. If you right click, you can choose between different colors to attack with, and attacking with the same color as the color the enemy is painted in will give you guaranteed critical strikes. So I summoned Fishron. The weapon dealt some insane damage to Fishron. It absolutely melted him. So naturally, it was an easy fight. I don't think there were any good essences or stellar array abilities, so I just kept going with the same loadout. So using the ancient crown I got after Golem, I tried summoning Nailhun, the Burnished King. It was insane. He had a ton of health as well. I died. Very surprising. I need to add a counter to how many times I say the word die or died. Do you guys think I should actually do that? Comment down below. So anyways, I tried again. Basically, this boss can swing his sword left or right, and it'll say whether he's swinging it left or right. Nailhun can also use attacks called Inner Agony or Outer Agony. He'll summon a circle, and if it's Inner Agony, you have to stay out of the circle. If it's Outer Agony, you have to go inside the circle. However, he can also feint you. It'll say in the chat whether he's feinting his next attack or not, and if it's a feint attack, it'll always be the opposite direction. So, for example, if it's a leftward slash, and he's feinting, it'll actually be directed towards the right. Just when I thought I was about to beat him,
Upon my holy blade,
he has a second phase. I kid you not, I jumped out of my seat when this happened. I genuinely thought I beat him. I guess we'll fight this boss later than now. So I just went ahead and summoned the cultist. It wasn't anything bad at all. Essences time. I got a bunch of essences, but 2 of them interested me. The essence of Driving Thunder and the essence of the Timeless. The essence of Driving Thunder is used to craft the Yunlai Stiletto, and the essence of the Timeless is used to craft the Umbra. Both of them were melee weapons, so I'll craft them soon. The new stellar array ability I got was the Arboreal Echoes, which causes you to heal 10 HP when dealing damage to unhurt enemies, as well as increasing the damage of the first hit by 30%. I don't understand this ability. What does it mean by unhurting enemies? Comment down below if you know the answer. Either this is actually confusing, or I'm just slow. Probably the latter. I destroyed the Solar Pillar, the Nebula Pillar, the Stardust Pillar, and then I crafted the Yunlai Stiletto. Right-clicking will expend 80 mana, but it'll place a Lightning Stiletto in your cursor's location. If you right-click again, you'll teleport to that location of the Lightning Stiletto, and your next attack will deal significantly more damage and have more range. I checked boss checklist to see if there was any bosses I should fight before the Moonlord, and there was this boss called Arbitration. It has no image in the boss checklist, and to summon it, I need to go to an anomaly subworld and stay there for a period of time. Apparently, Lyra is an anomaly subworld, so I went there. After staying for a long amount of time, I got this weird looking debuff, which told me to leave now or else. But then... Am I in some sort of creepypasta now? I think I am. I ended up dying. I'll fight this boss later. I crafted a new weapon called Umbra, which Okay, get ready for this. Umbra fires piercing blades. Whenever you deal damage with the weapon, you get a buff called Timeless Potential, which increases critical strike chance. Also, dying with the Timeless Potential buff will revive you with a 2-minute cooldown. You also have a timeless gauge underneath your character, and dealing damage will increase the gauge. If you right click, you'll consume half of the gauge to unleash a stronger timeless blade. Why do I need a PhD to understand these weapons? I destroyed the Vortex Pillar and absolutely destroyed the Moonlord. Now, of course, there's post-moonlord content in this mod, so it isn't over just yet. The important essences I got from the Moonlord were the Essence of Souls, used to craft the Soul Reaver, and the Essence of the Lunar Dominion, used to craft the Neganadal. When it comes to stellar array abilities, I got 2. The first one is the Key Twin Burst, which divides all attacks into 2 instances of damage. The second one is the Key of Chronology, which allows you to heal the amount of damage you take if it's over 200 damage. So I crafted the Neganadal. When right-clicking with this weapon, you use 25 mana to summon swords, and you can summon up to 5 swords at once. Left-clicking will shoot each blade, and right-clicking while having all 5 blades summoned will shoot them all at once. I crafted some solar armor, and I tried summoning the solar eclipse to get the death sickle for a weapon I was trying to craft, but the solar tablet didn't work. I don't know why, and I don't know how. So I just decided to use cheat sheet to get the death sickle. It's not my fault, it's the game's. I don't know how the solar tablet just didn't work. But anyways, I crafted the Soul Reaver. The Soul Reaver attacks with a close range, but right-clicking will unleash a long-range attack that deals half the base damage of the weapon. You can also charge the weapon, and attacking with full charge will use Soul Harvest, which will teleport you to your cursor and deal damage to enemies near where you're teleported. So I went back to Lyra. I wanted to have my rematch with the Arbitration boss. So after waiting for a while in the anomaly, the Arbitration spawned. I'm not kidding when I say this. This fight was 9 minutes long. Are my weapons just extremely underpowered? Does this guy just have an insane amount of health? I don't know, but it was extremely painful to go through. Arbitration used a lot of these grid pattern attacks, and he shot red stars everywhere. The catch is, for some reason, this boss was doing no damage to me. I was doing no damage to him, and he was doing no damage to me. So that's the reason the boss fight was so long. Now, there was one extremely amazing essence I got from this fight. 1. The Essence of Bloodshed. If you have played Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, you probably know what this essence can craft. Now, this weapon needs the Broken Hero Sword, and once again, for some reason, I can summon the Solar Eclipse. So I just had to use cheat sheet again. But eventually, I crafted a weapon called The Only Thing I Know For Real. I'm not kidding, that's the actual name. It's time to become Jetstream Sam. The weapon basically acts like a normal sword when left clicking, but holding left click will unleash gun trigger execution, which will make you teleport to your cursor and deal damage around you. After using this ability, you'll gain a debuff called Impact Recoil for 12 seconds, which will have the damage of the gun trigger execution, so you can't just abuse it. But right clicking will execute gun trigger parry, which will negate all attacks for a short time frame, also giving you a 30% damage boost till you take damage. So I used the Ancient Crown again to summon Nailhun, the Burnished King. It's time for the rematch. This time I have better gear. Also, I know that he has a second phase. You already saw the first phase, so I'll just skip to the second. The second phase is much different than the first phase. He can spawn bullet hell slashes and also spawn explosions. He can also spawn a really gigantic sword, dealing damage in a very big radius.
Upon my holy blade, the very world lies in balance. Impetuous. Now the scales will tip. Show me more. Senses quite infinite. It is time.
I didn't get any interesting essences from this fight, but I did get a new stellar array ability called the Swift Strike Theory, which gives me 80% increased attack damage during immunity frames. But I also got a new stellar nova called Ars Levatin. It summons a gigantic sword that spins 5 times, dealing damage to enemies while also burning them. But then, this guy came back again, and gave me a new summoning item called the Progenitor's Wish. I use the item, and the sky changed into a yellowish hue. If I use a summoning item again, it'll summon the Warrior of Light, the apparent final boss of this mod, right? So I summoned the Warrior of Light.
This battle shall be our last.
And, you know, I died. I tried again, I died again. So I decided to spend a lot of time farming for the Zenith. I mean, I know the modded weapons are cool and all, but like, you know. So with my Zenith, I summoned the Warrior of Light. And I died, but I got way closer than before. So I tried again. After some fighting, I entered the second phase. Check out this cool animation.
Now to take your mega.
I really love these types of animations in this mod. Props to the developers. So let's go. We beat the final boss. Except it isn't the final boss. There's still actually one more boss to defeat. The first Starfarer. Now I got like 7 essences from this fight, but there was one very important essence. One essence that caught my eye. The essence of the beginning and end. We'll check out the weapon this can craft later. I also got 2 new stellar array abilities. The first one is called the Avatar of Light, and it causes half of my max mana to get added to my max HP. When I'm above 500 HP, I get 10 defense, 5% more damage, and more stellar nova regeneration. The second ability is called the Unbridled Radiance, which doubles the recharge rate of my stellar nova. So I use the essence of the beginning and end to craft Bury the Light. Oh my god, we can judgment cut people now. The Bury the Light will send out slashes when you use left click. Every time you hit an enemy with these slashes, you build up stacks of judgment. At 20 stacks, the next slash will execute an attack called Judgment, a burst of slashes that deal more damage, and it removes all your stacks. You can also right click to send out Mirage Blades that heal 5 HP when hitting an enemy. There's also a Judgment Gauge under the player. executing Judgment, and Mirage Blades will build up the Judgment Gauge. Once the Judgment Gauge is full, you can execute an attack called Judgment Finale, which will unleash a barrage of slashes, dealing an insane amount of damage. This is the final weapon we will use in this mod. So I went back to the Observatory and crafted the Mnemonic Sigil. I used a Mnemonic Sigil and teleported to this weird place. After using it again, I summoned Tsukiyomi, the first Starfarer. Is that how I pronounced it? At first, her attacks were pretty basic, and it looked like the fight wasn't going to be that bad. But then...
I can see there is no more point to holding back. Know that I have given you ample time for surrender.
Alright, the second phase. Things are getting real now, and I died. I died a lot more times after that, so let's just get to the final fight. Since this is the final boss, instead of explaining it for you guys, I'm just gonna let you watch. This is gonna be a long fight, so get ready.
I will be the end of your long journey. There is no way you can run. I too am Starfarer. Now comes the age of the stars. Fly over the do me a favor and die.
So, that's it for this video. This mod was a really cool mod. I especially liked all the insanely unique weapons that you just don't see in any other mod. The boss fights are cool too, and the subworld system is also something that I enjoyed. It was a bit tiresome having to make this video though, since, again, I had to record it again after the footage got corrupted. So liking, commenting, and subscribing will really help motivate me to make more videos. I'm getting pretty close to 100k subs. And just a quick announcement. I'm gonna start streaming a lot of my Terraria playthroughs from now on. I feel like just narrating the videos over and over again will get too boring for you guys. So having some live reactions will freshen the videos up and make them less boring. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and see ya.